All right, second try, and I'm not sure why, but I got through part of this and then the storage space ran out on what I'm filming this on. But my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, a clothing company, but also, and really, we address the human body's natural function, and one of those is the sense of hearing things with our ears. There's noise out here, I'm aware, but I'm going to continue as I have within the past few videos I've filmed in this location. It's a noisy spot, but it's real. So, In the Image Clothing Company, keyword allows the human body to work. We come at it through the skeletal system. The fat content changes at different times in our lives. The muscle mass amount changes at different times in our lives as well. But the body has a neutral in every joint within it. The human body's skeletal system is its foundation. It's the only thing that doesn't change, but it has a center line. There's a spine, a sternum, a trachea, a nose, the jaw stabilizing the entire body naturally. And the body has to stay centered, otherwise, on an earth with gravity pulling us straight down, the body's damaged and it's going through pain and using so much excess muscle, and parts of the body are just trying to work in positions they never will. So, clothing is what we talk about because it's the only thing placed onto the human being. There's imbalances in clothing, and placed onto the body there will then be imbalances in the body. So we have to keep clothing centered, and we do that here. We show free clothing modifications. I talk about the human body anatomy in depth. We just go over this mechanical machine that we've been given and show how to just let it do the only thing it ever will. Okay, there's three sides to us as a whole company, In the Image Clothing Company. One of the thirds is In the Image Clothing Company podcast, where we have discussions on the gospel of Jesus Christ, aka the truth of all things. Our whole company, all three sides, are centered around, as it is said within our name, the gospel of Jesus Christ. In the image of our God is how and who we were designed through and by. So, yes, our company is In the Image Clothing Company for that reason. Now, we also have another third of us, which is In the Image Clothing Company Music, where I show setups and sizing of guitars to allow the hands to work. I am a fingerstyle guitarist, as well as whatever I do with music. I'm pretty darn good at guitar. There's music you can hear from me on there. It's really a cool place. So, I'll talk about real quick, as I do within the intros, where clothing has to sit, and then we'll get into this on how to actually tie shoes, because I haven't made a video just specifically about this as of today's date, the 29th of March 2025. So that's what this is. Clothing for everybody: man, woman, tall, short, skinny, fat, any age, any part of the globe, any time period ever. It's always the same. The body's always the same. Foundation wise, pants need to be entirely above our hips, so there's no restriction to the hips. Slightly higher in the front than the rear with the waistband, because these core muscles can only ever work shortened, in other words contracted, and the body would always naturally and only will ever actually work activated as a whole. If there's nothing restricting it, that's just what it'll do. Now, the top seams that we wear on our tops need to be evenly behind these little bones that are on the top of our shoulders. That's how we keep our shoulders in their only actual working position, in their neutral one, behind the body, really behind the head, where these upper trapezius muscles connect to the neck and the spine, and then the rear of the base of the skull. Yeah, ideally right at the very edges of our shoulders for those edge seams, because that's where the functionality of the shoulder joint is. The body's just a mechanical machine. It will only ever do the functions it has, so it can't be restricted. There's two things In the Image Clothing Company has that we call prerequisites, separate from where clothing sits, because there's not always laces within shoes, and there's not always tags in our clothing. But when there is a rope weaved across the top of the human foot, there's only one way that that's going to ever be done, shaped the way that the top of the human foot structurally is shaped. There's no opinion. We didn't design the human body, and the skeletal system is just bones that don't have any move or give within them, but they connect to other bones, and in those joints they can. So there's just only one shape the human foot is shaped. There's no opinion, there's no way it would ever change. So in the Image Clothing Company shoelacing technique, it looks like this. And I'll show it throughout this video. With this, we tie our shoes evenly on both feet over toward the inside, okay, to the center line of the human being, and I'll get into it within this with a visual, okay? I talk about that within every intro that I do, unless I forget to, but this is going to be shown within this one here. Secondly, we remove all tags from clothing, because anywhere there is a tag, it's either causing a physical gap, changing the skeletal system's only working position, and then damage to the body happens, and or it's just not allowing the musculature to activate where the tag is placed. So within my boots here, I haven't actually removed the tags because I didn't want to ruin the tongue of the actual boot since they heat shrink these tags on. But what I've done is taken a knife and put a lot of little slits into the tag to cause texture there so the ankle can stay activated always, because that's the only way it will ever work. So let's get into this. This is what this is. And what it is this. Shoe tying and how to. So this is our shoelacing technique in the Image Clothing Company. It looks just like this. It's the exact same all the way up once you do the first crossing of laces. Looks just like this. Any and every and all shoe, boot, anything you place onto your foot, because like I discussed, there's only one way the human foot is shaped and it will never change. This is my right foot, okay? I talk about over toward the inside, over toward the inside. Then you tuck it underneath, okay? Simple knot. All right? Now, at this point, what you're going to do is go the opposite direction, over toward the outside for the loops, because what then will happen is you've created a knot that will only get tighter as you pull. And then you just have to only ever single knot your shoes and they will never loosen. Now, what you'll notice is there's this little like X looking thing on top of the knot. It's nice and like crossed. See that? And that's what we want. Okay, so what I do when I tie my shoes is actually, okay, right foot, all we always do is go over toward the inside, okay, and tuck it underneath. So when you pull, the shoe will go out when you just pull that first foundational knot. But what I've always done as a little kid, since a little kid as well, is take two bows like this. And it's the same thing, right? Over to the outside with those two bows. And then we have what I showed at the first knot that I did, right? It's just not quite the same when it's not actually on your foot, but I'm doing this off of the ground and off of my foot. But yes, then you'll have this like nice horizontally laying knot, and it'll have, like I showed, this little like crossy thing on the very top of the knot, okay? Left foot, because there's two sides to a human being. Some people don't have 2 feet, but if you don't, you might have some type of like prosthetic leg that you're still putting a shoe onto, so that the height is still even left to right on your being. And so it's the same thing regardless. If you have 2 shoes, doesn't matter what your amount of feet is, really. But anyway, left side, over toward the inside, okay? So like I said, when you pull it, it actually points out with that first foundational knot. Now, from here, same thing as I showed with that one, right? You make the loop, and if you do just a single loop, like a lot of people do, then you take the little tail end, and you go over toward the outside now, and tuck it underneath, and then pull, right? As you just tie your shoes. The big focus is a lot of people don't do the first one going one direction and then the second one going the opposite direction that they went the first time. So, right, same thing as the right foot. Okay, now we have this nice like crossing right on the very top of the knot. The bows lay horizontal. When you pull it, it will only ever get tighter, and there you go. Now I'm going to tie it once on the left foot, the way that I do it, with just the double bows, because maybe some people do it that way as well, right? So bow here, and then now we're going over toward the outside, just opposing the first direction we went. Always over toward the inside with that first knot. So then you just go opposite directions on the second knot to create this nice even knot, okay? It's not difficult. It might look like I'm having a hard time, but it's because I'm standing up and I'm holding the boot and things that are not quite the same as how I would just be tying my shoes if they were on my feet. But then this is what you will have, right? So this little tail end is on the top outer side, and this little tail end is on the top outer side, okay? The other tail end is on the bottom inner side, and this tail end is on the bottom inner side. So they're just exactly opposing. The shoelacing technique is exactly opposing, and the knots will just stay nice and even, nice and horizontal. They'll look really nice as far as they'll look uniform, because they are. They're exactly opposite, because there is two sides to the center line of a human being. And if you don't tie your shoes this way, it's not Evan Strong's opinion, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, but it's just the absolute undisputed truth. If you don't tie your shoes this way, your body will be damaged. That's really one of the biggest things that founded In the Image Clothing Company, is buying my first pair of barefoot shoes. And I started messing with shoelacing techniques and tying shoes. I didn't even know that shoes needed to be tied evenly. So I was spending the first 24 years of my life with my body in a twist from its foundation, because my knots weren't even on opposing sides of the center line of my body. So this is huge. That's how to do it. It's that simple. These are the beautiful Denver leather boots by Xero Shoes, Xero. I don't have any affiliation with them as of today's date or up until, but I love these and I would recommend them for anybody. So there we go. Okay, I'm gonna run over just shoelace requirements, quote unquote, just really quick. I have, and I talk about it where I do, under In the Image Clothing Company. Ideally round. Round is very natural, and then it's not having any way it can catch, because no matter what it does, if it does roll, it's the same because it's rounded, okay? Secondly, I don't know how many I'm numbering off, but the second one that I've said so far, ideally no give in shoelaces. As we talk about, the feet will just be using so much excess muscle and stabilization to try to stabilize if it's not really firm. So that's why I use paracord in my Xero Denver leathers, because they are so predictable for my feet, muscles, and operation as a whole to just work against. Yeah, I say, and it's not about me, but it's just, it's going to be damaging having tongue tabs in the center of the tongue where the laces go through it. You can lace the lace through that little tab in the center. I've cut them out of these Xero Denver leather boots, and I do that with every shoe that I have. I'm shivering a little bit. It's kind of cold out here. So that's what I will say. Well, in addition to stopping the lacing of any shoe or boot where your ankle will flex. I never go higher than here on these, because that's where my ankle will move. Otherwise, you're restricting your own body by placing something onto your feet. So as far as laces specifically, that's what I'm going to mention throughout this. Really, the actual bulk of this video is just how to tie shoes. You see our shoelacing technique where you do within every intro of anything we do, at least under In the Image Clothing Company podcast and the main side, this one here of In the Image Clothing Company. Unless I forget, I always say our shoelacing technique with tying the shoes evenly is one of our 2 prerequisites, just to allow the body to work. Otherwise, you're damaging the body, period, and done. So now though, we have this solid video where I've gone over how to tie your shoes. And I was 24 years old, tying shoes for about 20 years wrong, before I actually knew how to do it the only way that's actually correct. No opinion. The other thing though with tying shoes over toward the inside is when we walk, our feet actually kind of do this. We walk like this a little bit. When you look at people, well, when you look at Evan Strong, because I tried to do all that I can to be the example of what I'm showing with how the body works the only way that it ever will, and I didn't decide how that is. When people have naturally functioning feet, they do this. They walk and the foot rolls in and it rolls in and it rolls in. So it's actually very important to have shoe laces. I've talked about that many times under In the Image Clothing Company content, because not having laces or having some way for your laces to be entirely horizontal rather than the way that this knot, because it's going to the center line when we tie it, it allows the feet to as well, because they just naturally do. That's necessary, okay? Anything that's just horizontal, it's actually damaging because the foot doesn't do this. The foot goes like this. It goes inward, okay? So it's one of those things, as is just about every single thing we talk about here. That's the goal. It's no dispute. It's no opinion. It's eternal. It's truth. It will never change. It's the only way, right? I mean, take that with a grain of salt, but it is really. I mean, you put this on and it's just on you, and there's no alteration that's happening to your body, period. And that's something that's just such an amazing feeling when you've been wearing shoes laced incorrect for maybe your whole life, as I had, as far as I'm aware. I know I had been tying them incorrect my whole life, so there we go. How to tie shoes. No opinion, no like cool technique you can try, just the only way the human body works. This is In the Image Clothing Company, and those are the things that we discuss. Stuff that's that real and will never change. So, my name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today, as I said, is the 29th of March, 2025. We will have clothing available when we do, made out of 100% natural materials, staying centered, fitting correct, and that's how we allow the body to work. Just please never purchase In the Image Clothing Company clothing if your intention is to get it oversized. That is just going to damage your body so much. I have so much personal experience with that myself. Being the founder, that's where a lot of my understandings have come from, is getting out of these chronic patternings from especially shoelaces, drawstrings, and oversized clothing. So we talk about a lot of things, and they just are what they are. We don't have opinions. I mean, we're human beings. I always say how we're sinful by nature when I do say that. But yeah, that's how this is going to be, like an extremely massive company, and it really will. I mean that, because we talk about things that apply to every human to ever live and will never change. So with that bold statement at the end, thank you.